When we talk about influence, about presence, about the ability to inspire someone's trust, attraction, and respect without chasing them, we have to start with a truth that many overlook. You cannot truly influence anyone else until you have influence over yourself. And by influence, I don't mean some controlling, rigid self-discipline that feels like a prison. I mean the deep, calm mastery that comes from knowing who you are, what you stand for, and how to carry yourself in alignment with that. You see, most men who find themselves endlessly chasing, whether it's affection, approval, or attention, are often trying to fill an internal void. They believe that if they can just get the right reaction from someone else, they will feel whole. But the irony is, the more you seek that wholeness externally, the more you signal that you don't already have it. And human beings, especially women, can feel that, not always consciously, but in an intuitive way, like a subtle undercurrent. Self-mastery changes that equation entirely. When you master yourself, you stop operating from a place of need, and you begin operating from a place of choice. You no longer react impulsively to every glance or word. You don't bend your values to fit into someone else's approval. You become anchored, steady in a world that is constantly shifting. And there is something magnetic about a person who is anchored. People gravitate towards stability, especially when it is paired with warmth and presence. Psychologically, this comes down to something very simple. We are drawn to those who seem to have resources we value, emotional resources, intellectual clarity, inner calm, and self-mastery is one of the rarest resources in the modern world. It requires you to notice your impulses, to question your insecurities, and to consciously choose your responses rather than living on autopilot. Philosophically, you might think of it the way the Stoics did. You cannot control the external world, only your inner world. Epictetus said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." That's not just an abstract idea, it's a practical key to power in relationships. Because if you cannot be swayed by momentary flattery or threatened by temporary rejection, you become unshakable. And that unshakable presence doesn't need to chase, it draws others naturally, like gravity. I want you to picture two men. One walks into a room scanning for validation. He laughs too loudly at the right moments. He agrees with everything said. He leans forward, trying to prove he belongs. The other walks in with quiet confidence. He notices the room, takes a moment before speaking, and contributes when he has something meaningful to add. The first is in a hurry to win approval. The second is in control of himself. Guess which one has the stronger pull? It's not about arrogance, it's about groundedness. The journey to self-mastery is not glamorous. It means doing the small, often invisible work, keeping promises to yourself, building healthy routines, maintaining your physical and mental health, learning to sit with discomfort instead of escaping it. It means saying no to situations and people that pull you away from your values, even if saying yes might give you temporary pleasure or approval. And here's the paradox: when you are no longer desperate for any particular outcome, you create the conditions where the outcomes you desire most are more likely to happen. A man who does not chase approval often receives it in abundance. A man who does not cling to love often finds love that clings to him. That's not magic. People feel safest and most attracted when they sense they are not being used to fill an emotional void. This is why self-mastery isn't just the first step. It's the foundation. Without it, everything else you try, communication skills, lifestyle upgrades, even confidence tricks, will feel hollow. But with it, you no longer have to perform power. You simply live it. And when you live it, people notice, Remember, mastery over others without mastery over yourself is an illusion. It will crumble the moment life tests you. But mastery over yourself, your thoughts, your emotions, your actions, that is unshakable. That is where real lasting power comes from. So if there is one thing to walk away with today, it's this: stop chasing people and start mastering yourself. Because once you do, you will realize that the power you were searching for was never out there. It was always within you. When we talk about power in relationships, many people immediately think of charm, money, or physical attractiveness. But in truth, the most powerful asset you can possess is your mindset. You're specifically a mindset that understands and honors your own value. This is what I mean when I say high value mindset. It's not about arrogance, superiority, or playing games. It's about deeply knowing your worth and refusing to negotiate it away for temporary affection or validation. Most men lose power not because they lack physical appeal or resources, but because they undervalue themselves. They bend their schedule, their standards, even their identity to fit into someone else's world, hoping to be liked in return. And in doing so, they communicate, often without realizing it, that they believe the other person's time, energy, or attention is more valuable than theirs. This instantly shifts. In human interactions, value is not just about what you offer, but also about what you believe you deserve. The moment you start operating from a high-value mindset, your behavior changes in ways that are subtle but profound. You stop over-explaining yourself. You stop overcompensating when you sense someone losing interest. You stop chasing situations that make you compromise your integrity. Instead, you invest your time where it is reciprocated, and you create boundaries that protect your emotional space. This isn't about being cold or distant, it's about being selective, and selection itself is a form of power. Psychologically, people are drawn to what they perceive as scarce. If you value yourself, you automatically create a sense of scarcity because your time and attention are not endlessly available to anyone who demands them. The opposite is also true when you undervalue yourself and give away your energy freely. You make yourself common, and what is common rarely commands deep respect. Philosophically, this is about living from a place of abundance, not desperation. If you believe that love, respect, and opportunity are abundant, you will not cling to the first sign of attention that comes your way. You will not trade your core values for short-term approval. The high-value mindset says, I will share my world with those who meet me at my level, not with those who diminish me. Let's be clear, this is not about being dismissive or self-centered. In fact, high-value individuals are often the most generous because their generosity comes from a full cup, not from a need to be liked. They give without attachment, they love without losing themselves, and they walk away from situations that don't align without bitterness. I often think of it like this. Imagine you own a beautiful home. It's not the biggest or the most luxurious, but it is clean, well-kept, and full of warmth. You wouldn't just leave the doors wide open for anyone to walk in, would you? Not because you hate people, but because you respect the space you've created. You'd invite in those who value and honor it, and you'd keep the boundaries clear for those who don't. Your time, your attention, your energy, they are that home. Guard them with care, and they will only be shared with those who can truly appreciate them. Once you develop this mindset, something fascinating happens. You stop feeling anxious about losing someone. If they leave, it's simply because they were not aligned with your values, and in that case, their absence is not a loss, but a clearing of space for someone who is. This shift removes fear from it, and when fear is gone, you can show up fully authentic, confident, and free, from the need to control. The truth is, a man who knows his worth never has to announce it. It shows in the way he carries himself, the way he speaks, the way he responds to challenges. It shows in his patience when others are rushing. It shows in his ability to say no without guilt and yes without hesitation when something truly aligns. That steadiness is, if you find yourself constantly trying to prove your value, it's a sign that you don't fully believe in it yet. And belief doesn't come from wishing, it comes from building. You build it through self-respect, through the daily choice to align your actions with your values, and through the refusal to let external validation be the measure of your worth. At the end of the day, relationships are mirrors. How you see yourself will often be how others see you. If you see yourself as worthy, your behavior will reflect it, and others will respond accordingly. If you treat yourself as if you're easily replaceable, the world will believe you. So carry yourself as someone whose presence is a privilege, not a given, because the moment you start living that truth, you will notice that you no longer have to chase people. Those meant for you will choose you. If self-mastery is the foundation and a high-value mindset is the frame, then communication is the living space where connection happens. This is where all that inner work becomes visible. It's where people decide, often within seconds, whether they feel drawn toward you or keep their distance. And contrary to what many think, magnetic communication is not about saying more, it's about saying what matters in a way that carries weight. When you speak with clarity and calm authority, you send a message far deeper than the words themselves. You signal that you are not rushed, not desperate, not performing. You speak from a place of inner security, which makes your presence feel safe and grounded. Most people underestimate the power of how they speak, the tone, the pace, the pauses. But communication is not just an exchange of information, it is an exchange of energy. The mistake many men make is believing that attraction is built through constant talking, over-explaining, or trying to impress with words. But the most impactful communicators know the value of restraint. But they understand that listening, not the passive, distracted kind, but deep, intentional listening, creates a sense of connection that no speech can match. When you listen fully, you make the other person feel seen, and being seen is one of the most profound human needs. Psychologically, this works because humans are wired to trust those who show consistent presence and attention. Think about it. We feel most comfortable around people who are fully there with us, not scanning for their next opportunity or checking their phone mid-conversation. And in that comfort, influence grows. You don't have to push for it. It happens naturally because people lean toward those who make them feel valued. Philosophically, magnetic communication is about alignment between your inner world and your outer expression. If you truly believe in your own value, you won't feel the need to embellish, manipulate, or force interest. Your words will be fewer, but they will carry more depth. It's a difference between a shallow stream that rushes noisily and a deep river that moves steadily. It draws respect without shouting for attention. And communication is not just verbal. It's in your body language, the way you stand, how you hold eye contact, the openness or tension in your gesture. It's in the subtle way you respond to disagreement, not with defensiveness, but with curiosity. This is why self-mastery and high-value mindset matters so much. They shape your nonverbal cues without you even thinking about them. When you are calm and confident inside, it shows in how you move, how you listen, and even how you remain silent. I've seen conversations where one person says very little but walks away, having left a powerful impression simply because their presence felt intentional and real. And I've seen others talk endlessly and leave no impact because the energy behind their words was one of seeking, not offering. This is why magnetic communication starts long before you open your mouth. It starts with the quality of attention you give to the present moment. To develop this, you have to train yourself to be fully in the conversation you are in, not rehearsing what you'll say next, not subtly steering the topic toward your achievements, simply being there. Ironically, when you stop trying so hard to make an impression, you often make the strongest one. There's also a discipline in choosing your words. High value communicators are intentional. They speak truthfully, but with empathy. And they express opinions, but without needing to dominate. They ask thoughtful questions that invite the other person to reveal more of themselves. And they know when silence can speak louder than anything they might say. The danger of poor communication is that it can undermine everything else. You could have self mastery and a strong mindset, but if your words are rushed, scattered, or self centered, they will create a disconnect. On the other hand, when your communication is steady, clear, and attuned to the other person, it amplifies all the inner work you've done. It's the bridge between your inner strength and the external relationships you want to build. At the heart of it, magnetic communication is about respect for yourself, for the other person, and for the moment you share. And when people sense that respect, they will remember you even after the words have faded. So the next time you speak, ask yourself, am I talking to fill space or am I speaking to create connection? Because in the end, words fade, but the way you make someone feel in your presence, that is what stays. A man's true power is never found in how much attention he can demand. It's found in the quality of life he builds for himself and of who is watching. A life filled with purpose and abundance becomes its own form of magnetism. When you are deeply engaged in your own journey, chasing becomes unnecessary because people naturally want to be part of something meaningful. We often think relationships are about finding the right person, but more often they're about becoming the right person. And becoming that person means cultivating a life that reflects your passions, your discipline, and your principles. This is not about crafting an image, it's about creating a reality so rich with fulfillment that it cannot help but be noticed. Abundance here does not just mean financial wealth, though resources can play a part. It means abundance in experiences, in skills, in the depth of your relationships, in the richness of your thoughts. It's waking up each morning with a reason to get out of bed that has nothing to do with impressing someone else. When you live with that kind of purpose, you give off an energy that others instinctively recognize as rare. Psychologically, humans are drawn to those who seem to have their own thriving world, a network, a set of passions, a rhythm to life that doesn't depend on anyone else for momentum. It creates a sense of stability and excitement at the same time. People feel safe because you are not dependent on them for your sense of self, and they feel intrigued because you're already in motion, heading somewhere worth going. Philosophically, a life of purpose and abundance is about stewardship, taking responsibility for the talents, opportunities, and time you've been given. It's refusing to waste your days waiting for someone else to bring meaning to them. When you live like that, your relationships become an addition to your life, not the foundation of it. This shift changes everything. You no longer approach people with the unspoken hope that they will complete you. You approach them as a complete person already, ready to share, not to beg. Think of two scenarios. In the first, a man's life revolves entirely around whether someone texts him back, whether someone compliments him, whether someone chooses to spend time with him. In the second, the man's life is already full. He is pursuing goals, learning new skills, maintaining his health, building his friendships, contributing to his community. When someone joins his life, it's like adding a new chapter to an already compelling book, not trying to start the story from scratch. Os- This is why chasing feels powerless, because it reveals that you have nothing better to do than orbit around someone else's life. But when you are building something meaningful, you are not chasing, you are inviting. And invitations are far more powerful than pursuits. Living with purpose requires clarity. You have to ask yourself what matters most to me? What kind of impact do I want to have? How can I grow in ways that will still matter 5 years from now? Too often we get caught up in short term distractions that feel urgent but do little to move us forward. Purpose means being willing to focus on the long term vision, even when the quick fix is tempting. And abundance is cultivated, not stumbled upon. You create it by being curious, by seeking new experiences, by learning constantly. Land, alan.